Do you find yourself struggling to be vulnerable with your partner? Does it feel like vulnerability is weakness, something that you should be ashamed of? Do you find yourself shutting down, afraid that if you say something to your partner in the heat of the moment, it's only going to make it worse? If so, you may find yourself in the more avoidant style of attachment. And one of your greatest challenges is being able to reach out and use connection as a reliable resource in order to help you soothe and comfort and use that sense of connection to re-strengthen yourself. Because that was something that was never taught to you based on previous learning. Today, we're going to talk about how, if we fall more into the avoidance style of attachment, how do we learn to reach out and use connection, to use others as a reliable resource for comfort and care and soothing that we can add to our strengths that we already have. Hi, if you're new to this channel, my name is Tom Philp, and I've been working with couples and individuals for decades who struggle with relational trauma so that they can regain trust in themselves and others so that they can experience a safe and secure relationship. Okay, let's dig in. As I mentioned, you might fall into a more avoidant style of attachment. If you do, that means a few things. It means that there are times where you struggle to be able to get in touch with your emotions. You struggle to be in touch with your body. So you live life, and especially in your relationships, primarily through your intellect. That's not a bad thing. You're probably a great problem solver. There's probably things that you can do that are absolutely a huge contribution to the relationship. But there's one thing, because of your style of attachment, that you really struggle with, and that is being able to reach out in times of need, in times of fear or sadness or shame or hurt, and being able to use your partner as a reliable resource. That's one of your liabilities if you fall more into this style of attachment. Now, it's not your fault. You didn't come out of the womb this way. Nobody does. So what that means is that based on previous learning, either in your childhood growing up, maybe it was in your adolescence where your first true love broke your heart, or maybe you were stuck in a previous marriage that was just going nowhere, and all you got was criticism and blame and shame and the finger pointed at you for all the things that you did wrong. However you might have learned this, what you do is you find yourself in this place now where it's really difficult for you to be able to sort of let down your walls, stay present in the moment when you're talking with your partner so that you can fully engage in what they're saying. And more often than not, what might happen is you get triggered, and so you sort of shut off emotionally. You close down, you put up walls, you might go somewhere else in your mind. Or you might get really confused, like, I don't know what's happening here. I've got to go to my head. I've got to figure this out. I need time. I need space. I'm not sure how we got here. But what you're doing is you're avoiding anything that might come up emotionally for you because of what you learned previously. And so the great challenge for you in these kinds of scenarios is to begin to figure out, how do I stay emotionally present and emotionally engaged? And almost more importantly, how do I communicate what's happening inside of me so that I could stay more present and engaged? How can I let my partner know what's going on inside of me? How can I resonate with that more myself? Because when I do, then I can use connection to actually de-escalate these cycles. I can use connection to actually feel heard and understood rather than having to go off and soothe myself. Because one of the things that the more avoidant style of attachment does really well is they are great self-soothers. And you should be proud of that. That definitely is a strength of the more avoidant style of attachment. You know how to go away. You know how to compartmentalize. You know how to get your head around what might have happened and how to think about a particular angle in which you want to address it next time. The problem is you often don't come back and readdress it. You don't bring it back up. You don't come back and make real repairs to the ruptures that happen in your relationship for fear that we're going to go right back to where we were before. We're going to go right back into these heightened emotions and these escalations in our cycle. So self-soothing is something you do really well. What you need to work on, what we want to add, at least in this short video today, is how do you begin to take safe steps so that you can begin to figure out, how do I add this additional tool to my relationships? Because part of what is happening, because you're closed off emotionally, because you shut down, because you might freeze up at times, you're missing vital information about what's happening in the moment. Being cut off from your emotions, while it is a survival strategy, means that you also don't have that vital information that you need to help resolve this issue. One of the things I often tell people that I'm working with that fall more into the avoidant style of attachment is you're not using the right tool to solve the right problem. If all you've got is a hammer, then every problem has to be a nail. Or if all you've got is a Phillips head screwdriver, what do you do when the screw needs a flathead? And so using the right tool for the right situation gives you more flexibility in learning how to solve problems in your relationship. And that's really what you want to do. That's your motivation. You don't want to argue. You don't want to fight. You just want to be able to solve problems. But you want to be able to be heard and understood yourself. However, when you throw up those walls, when you disconnect from your emotions, then it's really hard for your partner to see you as anything other than somebody that might not care, somebody that's more cold and unfeeling, or somebody that's sending them the message that whatever they're feeling is not important, that they don't matter enough for you to be able to sit with what they're feeling. And so let's take this next step. Let's talk about, what do we need to do? What are 3 simple steps that can help us sort of safely start to engage in being more emotionally available in these conversations with our partner? Well, I think the very first one is acknowledge your nervous system. You have to be able to recognize in your body when you start to shut down. You have to be able to recognize what is that moment where you get butterflies in your stomach, or your chest begins to feel heavy, or you begin to almost literally feel yourself move away from being present in the moment, or you start going to your head. Can you recognize those moments? Because that is your nervous system telling you what's happening to you in the moment. That is your nervous system saying, danger, danger. We've been in this situation before. We know how this ends. We've got to start using our survival strategy right now. So being able to be in touch with your body and recognize those moments when you start to intellectualize and go to your head, or move out of the present moment and into this more isolated feeling that you have, surrounding yourself with some walls where there's just you in there because it's safe and it's comfortable, but it doesn't allow room for anybody else. So that's the first step. Recognize those cues in your body. The second step is, how do we start naming what's happening to us? We've got to start being able to name, oh, I know what this is. When I do this, it's because probably this wound in me, this small t trauma in me has been triggered, and I'm feeling shame because I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, like I'm not measuring up. I'm not getting it right for my partner. And these are the same messages that I got growing up in my home, or I got in my first marriage. These are the same messages I've had before that I've had to learn to protect myself against. So being able to name that feeling, name that emotion, is going to be really important. So you understand the trigger and the bodily cues that are happening. Now you're able to actually label the emotion of what you're feeling. The third and perhaps most difficult but important step is, how can you communicate to your partner? It might sound something like this. Hey, can we slow this down for a minute? I'm kind of getting that feeling again, like I'm completely to blame here, or I'm not measuring up. And I know when I do that, I begin to shut down. And that means I won't be able to really hear what you're saying. And I want to hear what you're saying. What you're feeling is important to me. You are important to me. But I know if we don't slow this down, my body's automatically going to react and it's going to begin to shut down. And that means I'll remove myself emotionally from the conversation. So, one of the things I'm trying to work on is how to stay more emotionally engaged. Can we just slow this down for a moment? Because that would really help me be able to do that. And I want to do that for you. If you said that to your partner, I think that would be so eye-opening and so transformational moment in the relationship. And your partner would probably absolutely love it. Because for the first time, they're not just getting a wall of silence, they're actually understanding what's happening inside of you. So those are 3 steps that you can take to begin to stay more emotionally engaged in your relationships. Remember, one of your greatest challenges, if you fall more into the avoidance style of attachment, is how to use connection as a reliable resource for comfort, care, and soothing. We know you can self-soothe in a really good manner. What you have to learn how to do is learn to co-regulate, learn to soothe yourself through a reliable and safe connection.